This is the third video I am making about the early days of the Beatles. The previous video became much too long. I thought, oh, I'm just going to show some books and some albums and say, blah, this is this, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I can do that quite fast. That's not what happened. It became much, much, much too long. I'm sorry for that, and I'm thinking, well, being that long, not many people will watch it to the end. Those who do will know that at the end of the video I said something I probably shouldn't have said. And my apologies for that. But I will like to take just a little bit of time to say something about what I actually meant, because it came out in a wrong way and sounded like something else, and that was not exactly what I intended to say. Talking about what I intended to say was something about the pure joy of playing music, no matter how good or bad it is, but just the joy of doing it and having a good time, and even if you are a lousy player, showing some kind of love for the music. And this kind of being real, being genuine, being, straight from the heart, like a little child saying la 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 la, and this la 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 may be way out of tune and all sorts of things, but there is this joy in it. There's this kind of, I'm tempted to say innocence, but that is so easily misunderstood. I'm not talking about sexual innocence and that kind of stuff. I'm talking about some kind of faith in life, some kind of belief in possibilities, saying, okay, life is okay, and there are all sorts of things, and there is this, I don't recall if it's in the anthology or somewhere else. I saw this interview with Paul McCartney where he's telling a story from the early days. Their car broke down and they are standing in the middle of nowhere and saying, oh, what now? And they kind of said, don't worry, something's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen. That spirit of believing in things and possibilities. And there is this song by Billy Joel called The Longest Time. There is in the lyrics something about music left to right. So not all possibilities have been used. There are still things to do, and that sort of stuff. And it was that I was talking about. And sometimes things turn into something else, and from a technical point of view, it might get better, but maybe you lose the joy on the way, and suddenly you are somewhere where it's not funny anymore, and that kind of things, and that was actually what I intended to say. And that leads to the topic of today. I took a little look around YouTube, and it seems when it comes to the early days of the Beatles, the topic that seems to be the hot potato and that everybody has something to say about is the Pete Best controversy. Why was he sacked? Was he a bad drummer? Was he an okay drummer? So there were other reasons for it, and all those questions, and it seems like everybody has their opinion about that. So I thought, well, if that's the big thing, well, even if I from the beginning decided to take things chronological, step by step, well, I will make a jump in the chronology and says, okay, let's talk Pete Best and the sacking of Pete Best. What happened? Or at least what is my thoughts on it? As I just said, it seems everybody has their own opinion on it. It's not something I just found out. I know that for a long time. Several years ago, it must be 10, 15 years ago, or maybe even longer, I made this little performance, not something big, it was just for a bunch of friends, but I had some different people playing these types of people that all had their explanation of what happened. And there was a psychiatrist, and there was a musician, and there was a hairdresser, and they all had their own their personal explanation to this thing. So I will share my thoughts, and of course that's my thoughts, and you can find a very, very many other people on YouTube having their thoughts about it, and that's fine. I said this is a breakout from that step-by-step chronological thing, but I thought, well, if this is the hot potato, what everybody wants to know, to hear about, well, why let them sit and wait? God knows how many videos. Let's get to it. Let's get it over with. And those who are interested in other topics that seems to be less talked about, well, they can continue. But those who are just interested in this specific topic, well, I'm making it for them, and they don't have to watch more of my videos and put up with my awful English. So that would be fine. But I would like to connect things just a little bit to the things I was coming from. I mentioned in the previous video that no matter how critical you would be on Pete Best drumming, it is way better than Colin Hanton's. Colin Hanton, the drummer in the original Quarrymen setup. Lineup, I guess it's called. And I mentioned an example in the previous video. I didn't play a snip of it or anything, just mentioned it. But I would like to do that, exactly that, playing a snippet of it now. I hope this video won't get blocked, and I hope that I can get away with it. I don't think there are so many restrictions on that thing. I hope not. As I told in the previous video, there was this occasion, the 40 years anniversary for the day John met Paul, and John's old schoolmates were together again, and they were actually playing and were actually recording some music. So let's listen how that sounded.
Ready, guys? 1, 2, 3, 4. Be-bop-a-lula, she's my baby. Be-bop-a-lula, I don't mean maybe. Be-bop-a-lula, she's my baby. Be-bop-a-lula, I don't mean maybe. Be-bop-a-lula, she, my baby love, my baby love, my baby love. She's the gal with the red blue jeans. She's the queen of all the teams. She's the woman that I know. She's the woman that loves me so. Be-bop-a-lula, she's my baby. Be-bop-a-lula, I don't mean maybe. Be-bop-a-lula, she, my baby love, my baby love, my baby love. She's the one that's got that beat. She's the woman with the flying feet. She's the one that walks around the store. She's the one that cares more, 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 more. Be-bop-a-lula, she's my baby. Be-bop-a-lula, I don't mean maybe. Be-bop-a-lula, she's my baby love, my baby love, my baby love. Well, be-bop-a-lula, she's my baby. Be-bop-a-lula, I don't mean maybe.
Yes, I'll stop it there. As probably everybody could hear, I hope, for the most of the snippet we heard, it was okay. Maybe not good, but okay. If you were listening to the drums, you could hear, well, he sort of get it, more or less. Not particularly tight, and sometimes a little not quite on the beat, but it was more or less an okay backbeat. But then what happened? It was not exactly like I recalled it. I thought it was after the first break. Actually, after the first break, he had. You can hear he has a bit of difficulty finding his way back into the beat, but he managed. But then comes the second break. So he's having problems again. Where am I going to set in? And this time he's doing it wrong and starts banging on 1 and 3 instead of 2 and 4. I hope you could hear that. And suddenly the music is beginning to sound very strange, because in that kind of music the backbeat is an essential part of the style. It's so it's, well, be-bop-a-lula, she's my baby, and when you start to say be-bop-a-lula, she's my, it's like boom bop, boom bop, boom bop. It's a totally different feel, and it's like turning the music on the head. And I'll tell you something, that is something Pete Best would never do, because his very strongest side actually is pushing out a solid backbeat. Another thing about Pete Best's drumming, you probably, most of you know that when he was sacked, he said, it's not true. Ringo is not a better drummer, we are about the same. Maybe I'm a little faster, but that's it. Well, was he right about that? Well, that question is a bit more difficult than you would think, because how would you test that? One thing that actually is true is that on some of the recordings with Pete Best, he's doing some quite fast rolls, making and he does that, and that is a thing Ringo doesn't do very much. And I actually think it's important to try to be fair. It's quite easy to just write off Pete Best's drumming and talk about everything that is weak about it and not very good, because there are some things in it that are definitely not very good. I will come to that later, but I think let's do him justice. There's no need to just some people do that, and taking the worst possible example they can find and saying, listen how bad it is. I saw a video, not that I particularly disagreed with that guy. I actually think it was a quite good video, and there were some good explanations of many things in it. But he used the example with Pete drumming to Love Me Do. You all know that from the anthology, and you know, well, that guy in the video made a bit more in-depth analysis of it, but I guess everyone can hear that it's not that good. And I guess about all of us, or at least most of us, share the same experience. We had sitting there for so many years and had compared the Ringo version and the Andy White version of Love Me Do, and heard it all over again and said, oh yeah, there's this, that's and that, and you know that thing with the tambourine. That's actually the thing that makes it possible to tell them apart, because there isn't that much difference. So, of course, all of us was quite excited, and wow, here's the third version. At last we can hear how it sounded when Pete Best was drumming on it, and I guess we were all saying, oh, that is not very good. So, judging from that, it is very easy to put down Pete, and I actually think, well, let's be fair. There's no need to be mean and just say, oh, he's lousy. That's too easy. So it's not that I'm going into that Pete brigade. I know he has his fan crowd and defenders. I'm not particular in there. I just think let's be fair to the guy. And no matter what it has not been easy for him. That is a fact. Actually, later on in life, he was a social worker and was specially excited to talk with musicians. And I guess you can guess why. No matter what story they could tell about being kicked out of a band or whatever, he could always top that, saying, well, I was in the Beatles. You know. So he kind of used it in a positive way to actually try to help other people, and I think we should remember that and give him that. And you know, most people who have actually met him say he is a nice guy and all that kind of things. And so that's another thing. I don't think it's fair just to make that picture of him of this. I don't think he is like that. But that's another thing, and I will go much more in depth with that a bit later. I want to talk, as I said, let's put out what is good about Pete's drumming, and a bit later we talk about the weaknesses, but what is actually good about his drumming.